Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry about my voice. It's not that great, but we are very happy that you guys are here. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Elon University. I am Sugun Giri, instructional technologist at Elon University, as well as one of the conference planners for IDEAx 2025. We're very excited to host IDEAx here for the first time and grateful that you are all spending your day with us. And IDEAx community means a lot to me personally because it's a community that focuses on interinstitutional collaboration and also focuses on practical, insightful, pedagogy-centered sessions. So thank you guys again for being here. Before I introduce our Senior Director of Teaching and Learning Technologies, Kelly Reamer, I want to take a few moments to thank the people who have made IDEAx 2025 possible. Thank you to Sam Blevins and the IDEAx board for encouraging us to apply and for trusting us to host. Sam, a special thanks for the freedom to shape this event the way we envisioned and also for your steady help with logistics. To Becky Kleffer, my partner in crime, thank you for planning every piece of this with me, from the CFP and registration to spaces, catering, and the small but important details. Thank you to Dhwani and Kelly for the support, resources, and backing to bring this event to campus. And thank you, Dhwani and Jill, especially for being our keynote speakers today. Daniel Statham, thank you again for making sure that the campus community knew about this event and for helping bring more people into the conversation. A big shout out to our events team, Robert Johnson, Sean Walker, Jeff Lamson, and Dallas Smith for room reservations, AV support, recording, and all the behind-the-scenes work. Thank you to Andrew Bacon for capturing photos throughout the day, and to our TLT students and colleagues, David and Kendra, for welcoming guests and helping everyone find their way. With that, it's my pleasure to introduce our Senior Director of Teaching and Learning Technologies, Kelly Reamer. Kelly brings a steady, people-first approach to everything that she leads, and we're grateful to have her open IDEAx 2025. Please join me in welcoming Kelly.
Give the address. That was really inspiring. It's a hard thing to follow. So, good morning, everyone. We are so grateful to have you all here today. We have colleagues joining us from 11 different institutions this morning across Virginia and North Carolina. We've got instructional technologists in the room, instructional designers, faculty, academic leaders, and so we are really grateful that you're here. I am curious, show of hands, how many of you, this is your first time attending this conference? Oh, a few. And I'm raising my hand because I'm also our first day on this. So we are excited to have each of you, whether this is the first time you've attended or whether you've attended in the past. For those of you who might not know a little bit about the history of this conference, IDEAx was formed in 2014 by the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning at Radford University. Any Radford University folks in the room? Woo! We are grateful for you all. So the intention of this community is to bring together professionals in the fields of learning sciences and professional development to share knowledge and ideas with each other. We are grateful for Radford for not only forming this group, but then bringing us into the fold of it. So thank you to Radford for that. We appreciate that. So these opportunities to collaborate across institutions are so incredibly valuable. I love going to conferences. I love the opportunities to connect with people and get to know somebody new. You think about the collective expertise, knowledge, and skills in this room, and conferences like this bring people together. So as we enter a day of learning and sharing, my goal for this short welcome, because Sugun's like 15 minutes, Kelly. That's my goal, Sugun, is to prepare us mentally for the day. So I'd like to help us get in the right headspace, to step away from the to-do list, which I know is long, because mine is long as well, to not think about the emails that are coming into our inbox, to set that aside, to set aside social media, to set aside the distractions that are all vying for our attention right now. And instead, just to take a deep breath, I'm gonna have everybody take a deep breath. And that is going to prepare us for a day of learning. A wise colleague once told me all of the email and every item on the to-do list will still be there tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's Saturday, so I'm not encouraging work on Saturday. It can wait till Monday, but just step away from that. So how do we take advantage of this day and the activities and the busyness of life and shift our minds to this moment, to be present with these colleagues in this room? So I want to take a few minutes to sort of ground ourselves in some reflection questions. And those 3 questions are, why do you do this work? What brings you joy in this work? And who are you serving? So let's start with our why. And I'm going to share a little bit of personal reflection here, but I encourage you all to take this time too, just to make a few notes about why you also do this work. So my own personal reflection on this question, it all stems from my personal love of learning, which grew and then developed into a love of facilitating that learning for other people. My love of learning started at a very early age. I come from a family of educators. My mom was a 3rd grade teacher for 30 years. My grandmother was a kindergarten teacher, and she was wonderful because she was actually my kindergarten teacher. I fondly remember summers as a time of rest and fun, but also a time for learning. We were encouraged to spend time outside in the natural world. We went to the library for a weekly adventure to learn something new. My mom created a word box for me, and every day I got a new word, and I got to learn a new word, how to spell it, and what it meant. And so that was fabulous. And then my dad worked for Xerox. He was a repair technician, and he would repair printers that were like literally as large as this room. He loved to tinker, and he still does. And he saw the possibilities for how technology, which is the field that he was in, could potentially intersect with learning. And he convinced my mom that we should spend a lot of money and buy a computer. He still regularly does that. And he said, I just think the kids are going to have to know technology skills. He was right. So I remember the day this computer arrives, and I'm about to date myself when I say what kind of computer this is. But I remember him setting up the Apple IIe. Does anybody remember the Apple IIe? Oh, yes. Okay, there's people as old as I am. So I remember that computer being set up in our living room. And I remember my dad showing us how we were going to boot this computer up with his 5 1/4 floppy disk. And while that computer is so unimpressive in today's standards, I remember it sparking my curiosity. It sparked something new in me in terms of learning. I spent hours playing Reading Blaster and Math Blaster. Do I have any Reading Blaster, Math? Oh, yes, in the back of the room. All right. I spent hours playing the Oregon Trail and other text-based adventure games. And it was those games that really helped me develop math skills and reading skills and critical thinking skills, and even empathy when my characters would die from cholera or an overtipped wagon on their way out west. It was this intersection of education and technology that existed in my own home that really drove me to the place that I am within my own career. I value learning. I appreciate the intentionality of designing a learning experience, whether that's with technology or without technology, and making learning fun. So that is why I do this work. And I encourage each of you to take a few minutes today, whether it's at lunch or a break, but share with somebody new maybe, why you do this work. I think it's essential we remember that. So the second question to reflect on is, what brings you joy in this work? To me, there is something really special as an educator to encourage and coach a student through that messiness of learning. When they're frustrated, they're grappling with the concept, and then that light bulb moment happens when they just get it. And there's also something special about empowering others to be able to have that moment with students. So working with faculty and staff to provide them with the tools and the skills they need to feel confident to connect their disciplinary expertise with a tool that fosters learning. When that moment of understanding and confidence happens, that brings me joy. And it's something I hold on to, and I remember during those hard days, because there are hard days out there in our work, but that brings me joy. So the question for you all is, what brings you joy? And then lastly, who are you serving? At the heart of all of our work are our amazing students. They choose to come to our institutions for a multitude of reasons. They are seeking to learn about a discipline or a career field, develop skills that will serve them throughout their lifetime, build relationships with faculty and staff and also their peers. Sometimes our work is more focused on the support structures for the faculty, which we know ultimately support the students. We play a role in the faculty and staff and their professional development, helping them to connect their dots of the disciplinary expertise with pedagogical skills and the technology skills. And this intersection, we know, ultimately makes learning possible for our students. I fondly remember my own college experience, and I'm so grateful for the faculty and staff who instructed me and guided me and mentored me along the way. I'm also grateful for all the behind-the-scenes work that happened to provide those learning opportunities, and I probably did not recognize those in college, but I think we're all behind the scenes now and we see that, and I love being a part of that team now. So doing that work that's oftentimes invisible to our students, but we clearly know that it makes an impact on their learning experience every single day. So who are you serving? If all of us in this room spent some time sharing our purpose, sharing what brings us joy, who we are serving, I bet there would be a lot of similarities. There would be differences too, but I bet there would be a lot of similarities. My guess is that we share some similar goals of wanting to design meaningful learning experiences for our students, especially in a world that is constantly shifting. We probably also share some values around pedagogy being first. The tools don't drive the learning, the design of it does. So this year's conference theme is Purposeful Pathways, Designing with Intention and Integrity. Purposeful Pathways calls educators, instructional designers, technologists, and academic leaders to move beyond the passive adoption and toward intentional, values-driven, pedagogically sound design. It's not just about the technology, although technology can be fun sometimes, but it's really about designing learning experiences that embed it purposefully to achieve learning outcomes. This year's conference invites each of us to reflect on our roles in shaping a technology-rich future that still prioritizes authentic learning, ethical decision-making, and inclusive teaching practices. As we work to support teaching and learning at our home institutions, we each have an opportunity to model design with intention and integrity, to start our work by asking what we want our students to learn, to create spaces where we can help others think, reflect, and grow. We are also positioned to model pedagogy first, to guide intentional thought.
I'm so sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Your computer's about to restart in 30 seconds.
Oh, that is somebody else's computer.
It's okay.
It's running updates, it's important.
It'll be fine.
It might be an Apple IIe, I'll help you out later on. Thanks, Michael. So we're positioned to model pedagogy first, to guide intentional thought about when we decide to apply the use of a technology to support the process of learning, and when technology is a solution, to know that it should deepen the learning and not distract from it. We can model a human-centered use of technology to ensure that the technology is not,
Close it. Or hit B. Just hit B and it'll.
Hit B?
Yeah, to blank the screen.
Oh. I'm going to send emails on your behalf.
That's fine.
Oh, there we go. You're good, all right. So we can also model a human-centered use of technology to ensure that the technology is not replacing human thinking, but is instead strengthening it. We can explore with others how AI, it wouldn't be a day at work if we didn't say AI. We can explore with others how AI and digital tools can scaffold learning, spark curiosity, and open doors, but only when we keep our students' voices, agency, and critical thinking at the center. As leaders in instructional technology and instructional design, we offer the services and supports that branch across our entire campuses. And because of that, we are positioned well in our organizations to be impartial, to observe, to listen, to see the challenges and successes of learning that happen across the institution. Not only do we have a tremendous opportunity to connect people with each other, but also with resources, and we each have an opportunity to lead from the seat that we sit in. You might not have known this, but we have a superpower in this room, and that superpower is the opportunity to influence learning at our institutions. Grounded in the scholarship of teaching and learning, we can build momentum to design with intention and impact learning outcomes and student success. If you haven't already done so, I would encourage folks to read the 2026 EDUCAL's Top 10. Do I have any folks in the room that have read that yet? Oh, there's lots of opportunity in this room to read those. So there were two themes that emerged from these findings, and the first was to foster a collective will across our institutions, and the second was to support each person's individual capabilities. As I was reading through the top 10 this year, it really re-energized me, excuse me. As I considered the work ahead, I saw opportunities for connection, for growth and development, and for supporting our campus community as we navigate challenges around AI, data literacy, decision-making, technology literacy, and collaborative cybersecurity. Our work positions us to foster that collective will and to support each person's individual capabilities. As we consider the day ahead, I hope that you have walked into today with excitement. You're going to see and hear from campuses. Raise your hand if you're a presenter today. Oh, yep, see, these are wise people in the room. So you're going to have an opportunity to interact with these folks and to really see the work from campuses across the region who are experimenting boldly and thoughtfully. You're also going to have the opportunity to participate in hands-on sessions, lightning talks, and conversations about technology as a partner in learning and reflective practice. Today is about collaboration, learning from each other, swapping ideas, and leaving with real strategies and new partners. I encourage you to network with each other, get to know somebody new, ask them their purpose, ask them their why, have honest conversations, ask questions of each other, and build a network that continues beyond today. I also hope at the end of the day, as you're walking away, that you feel re-energized for the work ahead. Take a few minutes before you depart to find a place to sit quietly. I think the weather's going to be warmer when we leave. So take a few minutes. Maybe you can sit. There's swings across the quads. You can sit in the swings. You should have probably walked past Lake Mary now on the way, so there's some park benches around there. But just take a few minutes before you hop in the car and get back to your normal life, just to make note of some key takeaways, things that you want to apply in your work. And also maybe go ahead and reach out to somebody that you want to follow up with and have a virtual coffee with that you've connected with today. Your vast array of experiences, knowledge, and insight are a key part of this conference. And we, the Teaching and Learning Technologies team, are very grateful to have that collective talent and wisdom with us at Elon today. So enjoy the conference and your time together. Thank you so much for being here. And I think I'm handing it over to Becky. Yeah. Excellent. And Devani and Joe.
Yes. Check. Oh, there we go. Okay. How's everyone? We have lots of food. And there'll be a break after this, a short break, so you can go get more food. If Elon knows how to do things, it's to feed people. Come on up, y'all. Don't be shy. Okay, I have my notes here. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being here. My name is Becky Kleffer. I'm an instructional technologist here at Elon with Teaching and Learning Technologies. And in my role, I work very closely with faculty, and we talk together and collaborate together on technology integration. How do we integrate technologies into teaching? Things like our learning management system, Poll Everywhere, Padlet, which is my personal favorite, to create more engaging and effective learning experiences. So I am sitting here today with two of my colleagues, Jill McSweeney and Devani Toprani, and not only are they amazing, wonderful individuals, they are true teaching and learning powerhouses here at Elon. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
I'm a fellow Padlet Superstar user. I also love it. So welcome, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Dr. Jill McSweeney. I am an assistant director at our Center for Advancement of Teaching and Learning, where we support faculty in thinking and innovating and being their cheerleaders, because we have so many great faculty here doing wonderful, amazing, excellent teaching, and we get to kind of partner with them to think about how might you take it to the next level. I also teach in the School of Education, where I primarily teach undergrad students.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Dhwani Toprani, and I'm the Assistant Director for Learning Design and Technology group over here. Joined Elon about 3 years ago. Always like to remember. Every Jan, I think about that time, and it's been a wonderful journey because you are always surrounded by people who are trying to innovate, and that inspires you to do something different and new. My thesis was in technology integration, and I couldn't have gotten a job that aligns more closely with my education. So in my role, I work with a team of instructional technologists, video producers, learning support specialists to really think about technology in a lot of different ways and spaces. To support teaching and learning, we go beyond just answering the simple questions, but asking the tough questions of why are we doing this and what is in this for us? How can we unlock the power of technology beyond just the easy things that we can grab and do? So I find it very hard to describe what I do because it changes every day.
I don't know what's happening with the chair back there. All right, so our teams at the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning and Design and Support, we collaborate all the time in lots of different ventures here and around the university. One of our goals is when we collaborate, we really want to thoughtfully connect pedagogy with technology. In today's higher education landscape, we know that those two things we can't really separate them. They go hand in hand. So by partnering together, we help faculty leverage technology to support, enhance, and transform student learning experiences. So during our session today, Devani and Jill will answer some questions. They'll be in the hot seat about technology-supported teaching, innovative pedagogical strategies, and of course, AI. After the chat, we will open the floor to any questions. All right, so question one. In your roles, how do you approach the intersection of technology and pedagogy? Do you want to start, Jill?
Sure. So I took some time to think about this. I have to admit, I felt a little intimidated. You all are embedded in technology, and I was kind of like, what do I have to say to all of you who are doing this amazing work? So I sat down and I said, when Becky and I collaborate, when Devani and I collaborate, what are the fundamentals? What is that intersection? And it's really values. So values that it is learning-centric work that we're doing, it is evidence-based work that we're doing, and we're doing it in partnership with the students. And we can think about this for three reasons. Because technology is always advancing, because who we're teaching is always changing, the context that we're teaching under is always changing. The geopolitical landscape is certainly changing. As a Canadian in America, I definitely sense that. And so how do we think about that intersection as being flexible and malleable to those really important things? And so when we think about learner-centered and learning-centered, evidence-based, and students as partners, what does this look like in practice? And so I go back to thinking about some of the things that Kelly spoke about. So that the work that we're doing with this integration or this complementary work alongside of pedagogy and technology is first learner and outcome centered. So how are we thinking about backward design? How are we thinking about how the pedagogy is driving our choice in tools, how we're integrating it, and why we're integrating it? I think we probably all agree that we want pedagogy to drive that. We're not going to just choose a tool. Even though I love Padlet, I always try to figure out how does it support the learning, not just because of my love of it. Thinking about how is it an iterative integration? So when we think about that evidence base, how are we using scholarship and literature, so our scholarly teaching, to define why we're using it and how it's supporting the learning? But also, how are we integrating technology in an iterative way that we can collect evidence from students and with students to truly ensure that our use is meeting those contexts? So if our students are going to be graduating and our seniors, what might be the skills that they need to use to be successful in their discipline? How are we ensuring that students are confident and have the self-efficacy to be equipped to utilize the tools during their learning? So thinking about what evidence are we collecting iteratively and systematically across our teaching and our integration to ensure that we are effectively partnering with pedagogy and technology. And the last is the context under which we teach. We have a really great framework at the Center for the Advancement of Teaching and Learning that is the inclusive and equitable framework of teaching. And I think it applies to this partnership and intersection really well. So we always ask faculty, think about who you're teaching, what you're teaching, so your students change, what you're teaching might change as your discipline evolves, as you're teaching different political contexts, why you're teaching. So going back to what Kelly mentioned, the joy. So why are you teaching? Are you teaching because this is a first-year course? Is this a senior capstone? Are you teaching in the community? Are you teaching a lab or STEM base? How you're teaching, so thinking about how you're assessing, and also where you're teaching. So are you teaching online, synchronous, asynchronous, a blend, in person, and how is technology supplementing that pedagogy? And so when we're thinking about context, we can then think about what evidence we're collecting with students through that partnership, and how is that supporting our learning outcomes. And then lastly, going back to what Becky mentioned, is if we're thinking about how we can model these values to change the teaching culture and the practices at an institution, we also have to model it. So we have been really intentional at TLT and CATL to make sure that we are, when we're collaborating, thinking about those values and ensuring that when Becky gets a consultation, she's thinking about how I might come in and support backwards design, collecting evidence, thinking about the context. When I do a consultation and I hear somebody's using technology, I think about those values too and how Becky might be able to come in and support that work. We also think about our programming to the institution and to faculty as being really collaborative, that one can't exist without the other. This is different than my previous institution, where it often felt very siloed and competitive between technology and pedagogy. And we've been really intentional that if we expect faculty and teachers at Elon to think about this partnership and these values, that we ourselves have to enact them in our practice, and we have to demonstrate them to faculty that they are important.
+1 to all of that Jill said, and I think I can give the mic back to Becky. No, I think I'll pick up from where you left, Jill. That partnership between TLT and CATL has come a long way for us. It wasn't easy in the beginning in terms of what exactly we are doing, how we work together. When you have two departments trying to do very similar things with a huge Venn diagram, if you're thinking that has an overlap, who supports the faculty in what way and how can we intentionally partner was a big thing we had to figure out in the beginning. And I'm so grateful for the thinking and the collaboration and excitement that we get from CATL in a lot of these spaces. I was, during my time when I was starting in this position, I always asked, I was like, why are we not one department here? And there are reasons for that as well. So I really appreciate how we work together. To go back to the question, I think picking back up on the why that we've been talking about, that Kelly mentioned, like, what is your why for doing this work? Jill talked about what's your why as a teacher of why you are doing this. There is another aspect to it where you need to think about that why, both internally and externally. Why is it that you want to use this technology, and why is it that you don't want to use this technology internally? Because we are in this, going back to the geopolitical situation, where you may or may not connect with the ethics of this technology. And you think that this conflicts with the values I hold as a person, as a teacher, as a learner, as an instructor, whoever you see yourself as. And then second is the why with your learning objectives, the alignment with what you're trying to do and what you're trying to teach. And I think both those things are equally important when you're trying to make those decisions. Often when we are thinking about the return on my investment if I do this technology at an institutional level, now I'm going a little bit above the faculty and our interaction, because as instructional designers and people who are leading technology in some way, we are also giving the default technology to people. That's a huge, huge responsibility. How are we making that decision? I cannot be the only one making that decision. How am I involving my people in that process? And when we are thinking numbers and rate of, what's my rate of return on this technology, we often forget a very important element in this process, which is emotions. Anytime you bring a technology out, it's going to be yay or nay because of the attachment people have to that technology. Like we were talking about Padlet over here, that yes, we all love Padlet, but why or why not? So when you're thinking of investment into a technology, recognize and acknowledge and take it into consideration. I'm not saying make an emotionally driven decision, but do pay attention to those emotions. Are your people excited about this? Are your people afraid of this? If they're afraid of it, why are they afraid of it? What's the underlying reason for them to not be with you in this? And I think that kind of gives us clarity about a lot of the answers we are looking for. So going back to the technology and pedagogy, I can never draw the line. I just cannot draw the line. I don't know where it starts, where the other begins, and where the other ends. Because in my head, it's all the same thing. So I think the blurry it gets, the better it is.
Thank you, guys. All right, so question 2. What do you see as key considerations when integrating technology in our learning spaces, especially as AI continues to grow as a technology around us?
I'm going to let Devani go first on this.
Okay, too much talk time. I think the first thing that comes to my mind is data literacy and information literacy. There is so much technology that we have around us that if we are not able to critically think about it, critically evaluate why we are doing this or what value it is adding to us, we lose our micro for what we are trying to, like where we are trying to go. And going back to the EDUCAUSE top 10, I was curious, of course, the top 10 this time focus a lot on digital literacy and all of that. But every year in the past, they have talked about, I think, something to do with trust last year, the year before about the resilience. And that tells me that it is a combination of the two things that we have to continuously think about. One thing that comes to my mind is there's something called the DQ Institute, which is Digital Intelligence Institute. It's a think tank that was established in 2017, 2018 timeframe. They do a great job of identifying all these nuanced pieces of what do we mean by digital literacy? How do we accomplish it? What are we teaching our students about? What are we learning about? Digital identity is a real thing. And this is not only the identity about, it's not just limited to your social identity, but let's say if you're using an instructional technology in your classroom and you make all your students open an account on this platform. Now they have a digital existence in that technology. Do we know how their data is being used? Do they know how their data is being used? We have never had to think this critically about these things because AI is bringing all of that data together and it can translate into a lot of things for the world, information in ways that it could mean different things than what it is for your students. So I think that aspect has become very important for us more than ever when we are thinking about technology. Other than that, I think with AI coming into picture, a lot of mundane skills-based jobs are going to be replaced by technology, but how are we redefining teaching and learning in that moment? It's not the fear that needs to drive us in this moment. It really is the criticality of, okay, if this is how the world is changing, how do I change what I'm teaching? How do I change what they need to learn? And this question has been something we ask, I guess, as instructors every year to ourselves. In the light of AI, in the light of something else, doesn't matter. But I think we have to keep asking that question every year and treat AI as something that has happened before in the past in different shape, sizes, and forms. So yeah, I think those two would be my big ones.
Thank you, Devani. Okay, so AI, oh my gosh, where do I even start? So I think to pull back and go back to, regardless of if it's AI, going back to those values that I mentioned before, I think really guides how we can think about good pedagogy at the forefront of AI use. Whether it's for building AI literacy, thinking about how do we build students' capacity to be critical and reflective of their AI use, these all encourage good pedagogy and are supported through good, thoughtful, intentional pedagogy. When we think of AI and the ethics of its use, I go back to thinking about what Devani said around trust. So 2 years ago, colleagues here and across the world, Felton, Sutherland, and Forsyth, created a framework of trust moves in the classroom. And so they talked about how do we build trust in our classrooms that support student learning. It involves our knowledge competency, our ability to care for students, our ability to demonstrate intentional pedagogy, and understanding who our students are. So again, similar values of those. We recently did work with students, and there's a story that connects in with AI, I promise. We recently did a study across several institutions with 400 students to ask them which one of these moves matter the most and how do faculty build trust for you. And what we found is that thoughtfulness and caring was really important to students. And so again, going back to the values that we said of that intentional use, are we explaining to students why AI is important? Are we demonstrating the context that they might need to use it beyond our classroom, so in our discipline? How are we preparing them to be graduates? But what really stuck with me was once trust is broken with students, you can't get it back. And so I want to talk about this in the context of academic honesty and integrity, and how thinking about AI through that lens can oftentimes break the important trust that we need for that thoughtful integration of technology and pedagogy and using AI to support learning. I was at a conference last week, and the keynote was Sarah Eaton from the University of Calgary, who does a lot of work around academic integrity. I'm glad somebody's doing it because I gotta say, it's not the sexiest topic, but she makes it really interesting. And she talked about AI use and academic integrity. And she said, why are we always focused on the disintegrity, the dishonesty? Why don't we focus on how we're supporting students to make good choices, to be educated in those choices, particularly with AI and their learning? And how do we do that? And how are we acting with integrity, modeling integrity in our teaching to support that use? And so we hear a lot of faculty thinking about hidden ways to catch students cheating with AI, but how do we reframe that and think about how do I demonstrate integrity with technology use, particularly AI, in a time when it's always changing? We can't combat it the same way every semester in every course, even across the semester. So how are we leading with those values and foregrounding the integrity with it with students? And she really said cheating is not a technology problem, it's a human one. And I really like that because it goes back to those values again of how we're thinking about pedagogy first, partnering with students, and really thinking about the context we're teaching under. Regardless of technology, regardless of what the pedagogy, we're really thinking about the humans behind it. I would encourage you, if you're interested, she has a great work on 6 tenets of post-plagiarism writing in the AI age, and it really talks about how do we partner with students in this work to get them to define what AI usage looks like in their teaching. How does it support their learning? Students are going to need different things based on who they are, where they're coming from, their own experiences, and where they want to go. And so how do they define ethical and integral use with AI? And I thought that was really great. And then also thinking about sometimes, particularly with the way AI is advancing, that sometimes the use of it, students don't understand that it is cheating. So AI is doing a lot of things that students don't recognize that it's changing its work. They might use Grammarly or other products to help support their learning. And through the use of the AI, they could inadvertently be cheating. They might not recognize that. And so how do we also get them to be critical users, truly understand what the technology is doing so that they understand the risks, and they also have the accountability and autonomy to say, okay, I made this choice. This is why I made this choice to support my learning, and now I will be accountable for its actions, because those are the values we want them to leave with and essentially be out in the world with.
Thank you both. So we have time for one more quick question, and I just lost it here. So what are ways we can bring faculty into this space? Why do you think it's important for faculty members to continue learning and thinking about pedagogy and technology?
All right, so there's so many faculty that come in and say, how do we get students to engage? And I feel like this is the exact same question. Like, how do we get faculty or learners, regardless of if you're a student or a faculty, engaged? And so, again, thinking about that same thing, those same values, how is it learner-centered, evidence-based, and in partnership? So I have 3 things that at CATL we really think about, and when we partner with TLT, we really think about. So it's appreciative of time and work. So as Kelly mentioned, a lot of the work people are doing is invisible. It's a lot of late nights, on the weekends. Students might not see it, your colleagues might not see it. It might not have tangible outcomes. Being thoughtful isn't something tangible, but it is something that we integrate into our work, and it's a lot of work. So recognizing that when we're asking people to think about that intersection of pedagogy and technology, that it might be more work than they already are doing. It could require a lot of work around redesigning, reintegrating, rethinking, and that comes with that emotional labor that Devani was talking about, not just the actual tangible work that people are doing. So thinking about how do we create that time and space for our colleagues to do that work and be in community together. And so we think about a lot of times of how do we build sessions where there's a little bit of information, but it's a lot of time of working in community, getting feedback, coming out of that time with a product so that you feel as though you are a step ahead. So really being appreciative of the work and time that it takes to do these things, and then helping our colleagues to carve out that time. The next is listening to ensure the relevance of what you're doing. So we try to be both proactive but also reactive. How are you talking to your campus and your colleagues about what they are needing, what they are experiencing, the challenges, the celebrations? TLT and CATL partnered this last year to do a bunch of AI listening sessions with departments. We went around to departments and said, how are you using AI? What are the barriers? To better understand how we can support the teaching that is occurring. And recognizing that if we do it one year, that context might be changing and we might need to go back and listen a little bit more. So in our consults, we try to say, like, how is technology, how are your pedagogy working together? How are the students responding? How can you gather more evidence to understand? And we use those conversations to then inform the programming and services that we offer. And really thinking about that when we're listening, and this goes back to who we're serving, is we're both serving faculty, students, as well as the institution. And so thinking about how are we collecting the needs of all those stakeholders and informing into what we're doing. Because essentially, if we support faculty, the impact of that support is going to trickle down into the classroom. And so we have a really impactful way that we work with faculty and staff across campus to impact a wide variety of spaces. And then the last one is leading with evidence. So because technology changes, our context change, who we're teaching, who we're supporting changes, we really need to think about how are we building programming that is grounded in evidence and modeling that same evidence-based teaching that we want faculty to integrate into their own teaching. So really supporting and being appreciative of those practices and modeling them and encouraging faculty to integrate them into their own work.
I think there are 2 things that I think about when we are thinking of engaging or re-engaging faculty members, and I completely agree with you, Jill, that there's a lot that they're already doing. And just being aware of it kind of will change the approach with which you work with them. But there's one thing that never fails to excite a faculty member, and that is their student success. So connecting what you are trying to do, going back to the idea of the why, like why are you using this technology, connecting that why with how can it have a direct impact on your students, I think really works well. It works well for you to ask yourself, am I invested in because I'm excited about this, or am I invested in this technology because it really brings some value out of this? And when you have figured that out, working with a faculty member to help them figure that out for their context, for their students, I think is the most exciting part of the work for me. Because many a times I would think of a technology and its outcome as, oh, it can do this, this, and this. But I go into a room and talk to a faculty member from let's say, anatomy department, and they're like, you know what, I want to do this, this, and this with this technology. And I'm like, whoa, I never thought about it like that. So I think it's that coming together of your technology knowledge and their discipline knowledge, and finding that wow moment, I think really excites everybody. So for me, that's one of the way I would go back and engage with them. And the second thing, I think technology in and of itself is powerful in some way. And when you are thinking of re-engaging, we often think that, how can I be in the room with my faculty and re-engage? But remember, you are one person trying to help maybe 500 faculty members. That's the ratio with which we are working. So how can you help them without being in the room? How can you leverage that technology that you have, either through intentional design it in a way where it can help your faculty member in real time when they need it, even if you are not there, your design is there. So think of those niche ways in which you can design your technology to support the faculty members. And many of them are 4 a.m.ers, many of them are 12 a.m.ers, and I'm none of those. So how can I still exist in their lives when they need me or when they need our intelligence? By just designing these simple real-time support systems. And I think those work much better than trying to find a time on my calendar, on your calendar, and coming together to do this. So, and with AI, with all the technology that we have, with the KB articles, with the resources and knowledge that the tools have of themselves, I think it's just about relearning different ways of doing things, of how can we teach our faculty member to come engage with us for innovative, deep thinking, critical thinking around these technologies. But when it's a simple, how do I do this kind of a thing, you can just get on the other side of it by using the support system. So that way you're trying to accomplish both the things more effectively and in less time.
Can I add to that? You bring up there a really great point of sustainability of this work. So we are a couple people serving a large campus. And so thinking about how do we create sustainability in what we do. And I think TLT has been really great at identifying champions in departments and across the campus to also support that sustainability. So how are you finding folks who are doing really great things that might be new to you and encourage them to share with their colleagues? And I think this goes back to this idea that we can't be experts in everything. Technology is changing all the time. And so I don't consider my expert in this. I consider myself as like a matchmaker. I listen and I hear and I find stories and then I find ways to match them. And I think this also helps with the joy of that. If you are making that invisible work visible for folks and celebrating their success and their hard work, it's going to motivate them and it's going to encourage and motivate others. And so I think it's a multi-pronged approach that really allows us to have really big impacts at an individual level for faculty, but also at a larger level for the sustainability of the work we do.
Thank you so much, Jill and Devani. I'm trying to be very mindful of time. So this is my thought. We have about 7 minutes until the first set of concurrent sessions starts. So if you guys would like to ask Jill or Devani a question, maybe come find them after this. But what we're going to do now, the schedules are in your folders, but there's also a QR code if you want to see the session descriptions. In this room, our first session is Beyond Silos, Assessment and Media Collaboration for Student Success by Paul Couture and Todd Bucher from NC State University Delta. And then in 314, which is just down the hall, we are going to have Digital Rams Across Campus, a model for interdisciplinary digital integration by Dr. Jeremiah E. Shipp from Winston-Salem State University. And then we will have a short break followed by 2 sessions. Then we're all going to sort of migrate over to McEwen for lunch. You will need that card that was in your folder. And then we have a couple of tables sort of, you can sit wherever you want. But the nice thing about eating over there is you get the real Elon dining experience. And you can get whatever you want, which is super nice. Well, the pasta bar is amazing. It is wonderful. So if anybody has any questions, there's restrooms on this floor right by the elevators. Please get food before you migrate wherever you're going. But we're going to get started with the next session in about 6 minutes. So thanks, y'all.